Hey guys, I'm Wilson.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are on the Mewve.
Today we're going to tell you the best things to do in Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this location because it's got a lot of cool history stuff, and as a history buff, I just love this kind of place to come to.
It's got lots to do, a lot more than we really actually thought.
Absolutely.
We got 2 days, so we're going to see what we can see.
All right, so Springfield, Illinois is probably best known for being the land of Lincoln. If you've ever seen an Illinois state license plate tag, you've seen that written on that tag. So for me, it's kind of cool to come to that land of Lincoln and see just where he was from.
Yep. It's a pretty important place. So we chose to do 3 things revolving around Lincoln himself. So we did Lincoln's home and neighborhood. We did the Presidential Museum and Library, which was our first on all of our vacations that we've ever done. And we visited and paid respects to him at the tomb.
Mm-hmm. There's his house.
That's really cool, isn't it?
But while the wallpaper is interesting, the most important thing in this room, and probably the entire house, is the desk in the right-hand corner back there. And now that is Abraham Lincoln's original desk. He came to Springfield in 1837. And he was very poor. He needed a desk, he's practicing law, and that is the cheap little desk that he is able to purchase. And something about that desk symbolizes something important to him. He doesn't want to upgrade. He doesn't get anything better, bigger. He really loved that desk. He was very sentimental about it. So it's a special piece for us to have. Historically, though, we believe he drafted part of the inaugural address on there and part of the House Divided speech. So really important moments in history occurred on that tiny desk in the corner.
Well, that was really cool. We just got to tour Abraham Lincoln's house. Cody and I went to Washington, D.C. a couple weeks back, and we actually got to see one of his 2 existing top hats that still exists. But the house itself is just, it's cool because it's small. It's not like some huge mansion or anything. So now we're going to tour one of the other houses. There's 3 free houses you can tour: Lincoln's house, Charles Arnold's house, and then there's one across the street. The whole street is set up just like it was when Abraham Lincoln lived here back in the 1840s and 50s. And the Blanks Jenkins house here, 2 families lived here. They found some recent research that shows that these folks were actually involved in the Underground Railroad, which I found to be pretty cool. And Abraham Lincoln would have had interactions with many different types of people around. We learned about immigrants that were in the neighborhood, African Americans that were in the neighborhood, and so his impression of people was pretty diverse right here on his little street. You visit to Springfield, Illinois would not be complete without stopping here at Lincoln's home. He bought this home back in 1842 and lived in it until he left to go to Washington, D.C. in 1861, February of 1861. A couple of little tips. It's free to get in. That was one of the stipulations when Robert Todd Lincoln, his son, gave it to the state. It had to be free for everybody to get in. And then there's about 3 houses that you can tour, including President Lincoln's home.
You can walk along the streets. They are a preserved neighborhood that you can enjoy what it would have been like when Lincoln lived here. That was a really neat experience as well. So,
yeah, and the tour of the house is pretty cool. The National Park Service guide takes you through, explains the rooms to you. And by the way, Abraham Lincoln's home is air conditioned. That was awesome because it was really hot today in Springfield.
Yes, I'm pouring sweat. But one other thing, is free to go in the house, but you have to pay for parking, $2 an hour in the parking lot here. So just another little tidbit to help you out.
When you're in Springfield, one of the must-dos is the Lincoln Presidential Museum and Library. We've never done a presidential library or museum before like this, and this was just the great place to start.
Yeah.
So it's set up in a really cool way. It's set up in kind of like little sections. There's almost like little individual time periods, and for Lincoln's, it's got the early years, so his pre-presidential years and his presidential years. And one of the cool things is as soon as you walk in, after you buy your tickets for admission, when you go into the main gallery area, there's Lincoln's family, and they all greet you, you know, as you come in.
Outside the White House.
Yeah, it's you look up, there's this huge replica of the White House. There's Abe and Mary and the family, and it's a pretty cool way to see Lincoln and his family. It makes it real versus just reading in history books.
Yep. You can have your picture made with the Lincoln family as well. They'll be glad to take a picture of you as you come in. 2 parts of the gallery is to be in a theater form. One is called Lincoln's Eyes, and that focuses on his life and legacy. It was a pretty powerful show. It was going through his portraits, looking at his eyes and how they changed over the course of the history. That was pretty powerful. The second one is called The Ghost of the Library. And that one really focuses on why we preserve our history. And it's called a holovision theater.
It took us a while to figure out, was this real or not?
A guy had walked out behind the screen, literally. We all thought it was real for quite a while. So be prepared for that it's not a guy behind there, but it's a really cool technology that they've got that really shares the history of preserving the library.
Yeah, and they show you how they go through just individual artifacts, how they determine, you know, how are we going to preserve this, where do we get them from, and then what's the story behind the artifact, because an artifact is just an artifact without that story. And that's what really makes the Lincoln Presidential Library really cool, a museum, because it has so many artifacts that belong to Lincoln, and you just know he touched those things. And the Illinois Gallery is one of the galleries in there. They change out quite often. They had, this time, it was a remembrance type gallery.
Survival.
So they had things from the Holocaust and other type events throughout history that were kind of similar to the Holocaust in a way. Pretty powerful exhibit to walk through.
So for admission for this museum, this is a paid place to go. Most of everything that we went to was free, so this was really the only thing we had to pay for. Adults are $15 and kids are $6 from age 5 to 15. 4 and under are free. So it was well worth the money that we spent there. We learned a ton.
Yeah, and I think no matter who you're taking with you, whether you got younger kids, teenagers, if it's just you, you know, your significant other going, you'll enjoy it. There's something for all ages to see. It is interactive, and the way they've got it set up, like so many museums are doing today, it's much better than going to a museum 20 years ago.
And just looking at things on the wall and things like that. So lots of 3D exhibits and things like that the kids really got to feel the history that was a part of Lincoln's life.
So when you're at the Presidential Museum, across the street from the museum is the library. And it looks like it's connected with this bridge walk, and it is for employees only, we found out.
That's how they bring the artifacts across. We learned that.
Yeah, which was really cool. But if you're going to go and you're going to plan and you want to really see something, they have a ton of Civil War records. You can make an appointment. Usually, I think the guy told me at the desk 24 hours in advance. He said if you just stop by the day before, they'll get you in the next morning usually. But they need time to pull some artifacts if you're really doing some research or you just want to see a document, which I think is cool. I'd love to go back and do that. Just request a few documents to take a look at. I think that would be interesting from a history perspective.
They had a few exhibits on the floor that you could, on the first floor where you could walk around and see. But that's about it that you could do without an appointment.
More artwork than anything else that was displayed in the museum. They did have one historical exhibit, but overall, it's not a big stop that you want to do unless you're actually maybe doing some research.
Yeah, they had Lincoln's inaugural desk. That was one of the major artifacts there.
So any visit to Springfield and, going to Lincoln's home and the Presidential Library, it just wouldn't be complete if you didn't go to one more spot, I think. And this kind of completes it for us because we've been to Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., to the Peterson House across the street. If you don't know that little bit of history, study up on that, and then you'll kind of have that full circle of Lincoln, because once you get to Oak Ridge Cemetery, and that's where his tomb is, the tomb it is massive. It pays homage to Abraham Lincoln as president and as a statesman. And there's a little background history, too, behind the tomb. There is an original tomb, which is down the hill, and then there was a almost body snatching incident, and then they decided to move the tomb to a more secure tomb, and so there's just
He's been moved a lot.
Yeah. No wonder the guy couldn't get any rest. Even in death he couldn't. But it is a neat place to go and see. Normal hours are 9 to 5. Summertime hours are 7 to 8 p.m. So you can go out there. During the summer when we were there, it was super hot. Yeah. So, morning or late evening would be best. And then it depends on how much walking you're going to do. There are some memorials inside the cemetery, a war memorial or two. And then there are some prominent Illinois citizens buried in the cemetery as well. So you can check that out on their website. But it's well worth your time to go into the tomb. Inside the tomb is air conditioned. Yeah. So that was nice to go in. And there's quite a few things to read. You'll see Lincoln's tomb itself. And then
his family.
Yeah, Mary, and then 3 out of their 4 children are buried there too. Robert Todd was the only one who lived to adulthood, and he's buried at Arlington, so which is pretty neat. And a quick fact about Oak Ridge is it's the second most visited cemetery in the country. Arlington's number 1, and Oak Ridge is number 2 because of Lincoln. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Springfield is not only known as the land of Lincoln, it is also the state capital of Illinois. We have really grown to like visiting state capitals and kind of checking that off our bucket list of hitting all the capitals if we can. So this one is the first of our state capitals that we're going to hit this summer.
Yeah, and it's a pretty cool little stop. State capitals are free to see, or at least every one that we've done so far has been free.
Pretty sure they are.
But since our tax money does pay for that. Usually there's a guided tour in most state capitals. Illinois is no different. And so their hours are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And they are open on the weekends as well. Weekends are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So just keep that in mind. You'll want to check out their state capital website just to double check on tours. They usually have a few docents who are around to give you a tour. And we had one who took us through. He took us through the legislative branches and took us to the governor's office and gave us a little history, a little background on the state capitol. It was a very good tour. And then you can just walk around if you want as well. You can also do self-guided tours. A lot of capitals are that way as well. All right, so another great thing to do while you're here in Springfield is to find some local food. And we just asked at the visitor center and then at the Capitol, we decided to ask a couple of folks, where do you guys eat? What's something good? So Obed and Isaac's was
what everybody said pretty much.
Top recommendation. Multiple people said it, so we decided to go ahead and head there. And my goodness, the food. I'm not a foodie, but man, that was so good, wasn't it?
Yeah. And there's a traditional meal that comes from Springfield called the horseshoe, and that's what we decided to get and split. You can get a small one called the pony shoe, but that's something that is local to Springfield, which is really neat.
So make sure that you try something local. Support small businesses as well. That's always a good thing. It's something we try to do. Do that here in Springfield. You'll not regret it. Obed and Isaac's is right across from the Lincoln home. In fact, it's right behind me over here, the Lincoln Visitor Center and his home. So easy, nice stop. They are a little busy from time to time, so just be prepared. We had to wait about 20 minutes when we got here at lunchtime. A lot of locals eat here. I think a lot of government officials probably step across the street and eat there as well.
Hi.
Family getting ready. Is that Tad?
Why are you so tall?
Lincoln was a thin guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't eat much.
That's what they said at the house. They like to eat.
So we're here in Springfield, Illinois. We want to check out the old Capitol building because this one's more authentic to Abraham Lincoln. It's where he served in the state legislature, and this is near the area where he and Stephen Douglas had their debate on the square as well. If you come here though, check out the visitor center. It's back at the dry goods store. You'll see Abraham Lincoln's kind of mock office, his law office, which was kind of neat. It's set up as it would have been back during the time period, but his office was up in the 3rd floor and they haven't renovated that. So let's go in and see what there is to see here in the Capitol.
And an Illinois stop would not be complete without getting your kicks on Route 66. Illinois is known for the start of Route 66. So in Springfield, there's several things that you can do to participate in a little bit of Route 66 history.
Yeah, a lot of history along the route, you know, just a famous, it's worth just driving along a little bit in a few places anyway to check it out.
You see signs everywhere for where Route 66 came through the city, which is kind of cool.
Even our campground, you know, had all this Route 66 stuff because it was right on Route 66, the original route.
So we did several stops around the Springfield area that was real local. There's some that are a little further out that we could have gone to, but we only had a couple of days, so we tried to just hit what we could. We went to the original hand-laid brick piece of road that's 1.4 miles.
That was really neat to see. You know, you don't think of roads being paved with bricks, but that section was all original.
And you can drive on it.
Yeah, we drove right down it and stopped and took some photos because the new state road kind of goes around that area, so there's not a lot of traffic unless you either live on the road or you're doing what we did to go see it.
So that was neat. Okay.
It was. I think the kids really enjoyed that too. Just seeing the bricks in the road. It's not common, you know. I've seen cobblestones in Charleston. You know, bricks are just a little different, I think.
That was restored in 1931 was when that was done. It was laid over a cement roadbed, basically.
Mm-hmm.
One of the famous things on Route 66 are these roadside attractions. And so they have these muffler men that are giant to see. And so it's just one of those things that you just have to stop and take a picture of. It's not really anything major. It was literally at a tire shop, I believe, is where this one was. And so we literally just stopped at the tire shop, took a picture. But it's just one of those things you have to do. And a lot of people do that all along Route 66 if you're doing that as a road trip, is to find all the roadside attractions.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we stopped at was the Louderbach Tire Muffler Man.
It's a pretty cool little stop, you know, just to say you've seen one of those roadside attractions. And it's kind of like the restaurants. There's a ton of restaurants along Route 66 that are kind of famous and, you know, like
the Motorhead Bar and Grill Museum. This was an old gas station they redid to be a really a motorcycle stop, I think, or anybody who's really into cars, which obviously Route 66 has a lot of that, I think. But they had great food, and all around you was Route 66 memorabilia.
Yeah, and then you go outside, and they've got a bunch of signs, and they've got some old cars and other vehicles, and just reminders of Route 66, reminders of that time period when people were moving westward. And it really wasn't that far back, you know. You go back in history, it's only 50, 60 years ago that people were really taking that Route 66. You know, go back even a little further, 70, 80 years ago, they were taking it all the way out west, you know, moving out west. So pretty cool history.
Neat history. So great food. So we definitely wanted to eat somewhere on Route 66 because they have a lot of historic, kind of iconic places to eat.
There's an original corn dog shop along in there. There's
Coney Dog is
Coney
Dog.
Dog.
The famous ones.
We thought about stopping there, but we just kind of, we limit ourselves on things that we go out to eat. But that would be a great stop.
Yep. So find a place to eat on Route 66. Lots of them around Springfield.
And get your kicks
on Route 66.
So another thing to do in Springfield is visit the Ace Sign Company Museum.
They take Route 66 signs that they have replaced the neon in the signs as a great collection to keep it alive.
All right, no trip is complete without
What?
ice cream. Ice cream, right? And it's hot.
I know.
It is hot. We stopped at Scoop de Jour. They have ice cream and donuts, so I think we might get both today.
All right, so what did y'all get?
I don't know.
What is it?
It's some
Caramel.
Caramel
I don't know.
Collision.
So it looks really good. It's got little chocolate chunks in it. So it tastes really good. I had to sample. Cody got
The basic
Yeah.
Superman. It's
of
terrible.
course.
And I have birthday cake.
Now it's pretty basic too, though.
Yeah, but it's very good. Look at all those sprinkles.
One last thing we did while we were in Springfield, Illinois was go see something that Kelly and I have wanted to see for a while. I studied a little bit of architecture in school, even though I'm a teacher today, and you studied it, and you took some art.
Yeah.
And, you know, we decided to go see a Frank-Lloyd Wright house. And it's a good combination of art and architecture. If you've ever seen one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've not toured one, you should do so. Okay, we went to the Frank-Lloyd Wright house. It's called the Dana Thomas House. And Susan Dana commissioned Frank-Lloyd Wright back in 1902 to remodel her father's house. This is not a remodel.
No, it is huge. And to think about 1902 to have a house this large was crazy.
Yeah, it really was. The house today is owned by the state of Illinois. It was actually purchased by them for a very, very low amount. But the house is historic. And so today they give tours. They give about 3 or 4 tours a day. They're free. And so you just have to go to their website. We'll put a link down below so you guys can see that if you're interested in it. I think it's a well worth, stop.
Yeah.
It was about an hour tour, a little bit more than an hour. Depends on how many questions, you and your group have. They take a group of about 15 to 20 people through the tour.
We were not allowed to take pictures, so that we, and videos inside. We were only allowed to do that on the outside.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot to show you right here, but it's definitely well worth a stop. Even if you find one for Frank-Lloyd Wright house anywhere in the country, they're amazing. So I think the kids even liked it.
I think so too. Cody really, I think, found it interesting, and Maddie, even though being young, I think she really thought it was pretty neat to see the architecture and just how some people lived, during that time period.
I think they were amazed at that.
Yeah.
For how long ago that was and how big this house was. That's all they kept saying is, this is huge, And so I think this was something different too. We've never done anything like this on any of our vacations. So that was something new for them. So put a little check box. We've accomplished a Frank-Lloyd Wright house.
Oh yeah. Check it out though. I think you'll appreciate it, and you'll really be glad that you did it whenever you take a tour. So we've had a great few days here in Springfield, Illinois, and we're finishing that up by a little grilling here on the Blackstone. We've got some venison burgers, onions, hot dogs. Just a great way to end our trip here to Springfield. And we're going to be moving on tomorrow to Minnesota. But it's a short stay because our next destination really is North Dakota. So we're headed to Bismarck, and we're going to get there and see what they have to offer. And then we're going to head over to Medora and go to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. That's the one place in the middle of the country we've never been, is North Dakota, and we're excited about seeing it. So we'll see you guys next time out on the Mewve.